We are Makilala TV, the first Filipino-American TV talk show in the New York metro area. Get to know us as we talk to the community leaders, innovators, advocates, and emerging artists who affect Filipino-American life.
Hello, welcome to Makilala TV, the first and longest-running Filipino-American talk show in New York. My name is Cristina Pastor. I am joined by my co-hosts, Jen Fuhrer and Rachelle Ocampo. Today, I have the distinct privilege of introducing to you our special guest, Consul General in New York, Elmer Cato. Congen Elmer has been a diplomat for more than 23 years. His first overseas posting was in New York at the permanent mission of the Philippines to the United Nations. That was in the year 2003. After that, he has served as Chargé d'Affaires in Iraq and head of mission in Libya. He's back in New York in 2021 as the Consul General and the leader of the Filipino community of the U.S. Northeast. Before joining the Foreign Service, he was a journalist, having started as a cub reporter for the newspaper Ang Pahayagang Malaya. He was only 16 years old at the time. And then he moved on to several news organizations such as the Manila Chronicle, Reuters News Agency, Kyodo, Philippine News, Saudi Gazette, among many others. He was a recipient of the Gawad Mabini, a presidential award conferred on outstanding Filipino diplomats. He won recognition for making government service accessible to the public. With Bayanihan as the resounding advocacy of his tenure, let us welcome Consul General in New York, Elmer Cato. Hi, Consul Elmer. Welcome to Makilala.
Yeah, good morning, Clian. Good morning, Rachelle, Jen. Gandang umaga sa inyo lahat mula dito sa New York.
Thanks for accepting our invitation.
Siyempre naman. Of course, invite, you know. Clian and I were both journalists together, when I was still
I know.
in the Philippines.
So Congen and Elmer and I were both in the same media ecosystem for a while, but we did not really work together in the same organization. Congen, we have so many questions for you, but let me start with you came to New York at a formidable time, really challenging time. You know, there was a surge of anti-Asian hate, there's the COVID pandemic, and yet you hit the ground running, you reached out to people in hospitals, you reached out to victims of racial assault. What was the first few weeks like?
No, parang hindi ako umalis ng Libya at Iraq, From
war zone ba?
I was just here a few days when we had that incident involving an elderly kababayan who was violently assaulted in Hell's Kitchen, So,
there's another one?
No, that was the first one. Yung unang incident to, when I came in, I was here just a few days when that erupted. So parang sabi ko, ano ba naman to? I thought I would be here in New York to have a more relaxing work environment, but it was anti-Asian hate that welcomed me. And immediately we knew we had to issue a statement assuring our kababayan here that the consulate is here to its mandate to look after their interests and well-being. So we issued statements, we made representations with authorities, and we also reached out to other members of the Asian American community because hindi lang naman tayo affected ito. We're part of a larger community, It's the AAPI community. So this has been an issue that the consulate has been really focusing on, especially, when we check the statistics, there were about 23 cases involving kababayan here in New York.
Is that total in all?
23 that were reported to us. So we knew that there were more. There are cases that are not being reported. So we've been calling out our kababayan to please let us know. So just so we would be able to share with everyone how this issue affects the community, Yun nga lang, so syempre marami, I guess, natatakot, baka balikan sila ng mga suspects if cases are filed. of course, we know that the number of our kababayan here are undocumented, and they think if they go to authorities, their immigration status here might be compromised. So maraming issues. But itong anti-Asian hate is something that we really are focusing on. And, we met with the commissioner of the NYPD before we left, and we know, no, it just goes beyond yung simply Asian hate. This issue involves mental health and homelessness. So we want to work with the New York City authorities, and in fact, the Commissioner in International Affairs was at the Consulate the other day, and we discussed this issue, and we told them we want to work closely with them, so we could assure our community that moving forward under the new leadership in New York City, this issue would be properly addressed.
And Conjen, what has the consulate done to make Filipinos feel safe in New York? I know that there was a hotline that the consulate tried to promote, but was that really effective? What other ways that the consulate made us feel more safe?
Well, as you've said, we have an ATN hotline, and it's supposed to be a hotline, not a cold line. But we have not been receiving reports from kababayan. As I've said, there's some hesitation on their part for various reasons. But we didn't leave it at that. So we've been reaching out to members of the community in our virtual and in-person engagements with them. And at the same time, we undertook information drives. We did several training sessions on how to be situationally aware in order to avoid possible race-based violence or harassment. And for this year, we're lining up another series of self-defense training activities for kababayan.
Oh, wow. So how do we get information on those trainings? Just the Facebook group, or I see that's the most active.
There are several platforms that we're using, of course. Facebook and our social media accounts are there, which we use to disseminate information. We send information by email as well. We're trying to develop a new app. And this app would allow kababayan to send us distress messages, and at the same time allow us to send out notifications, alerts, advisories, etc. So this app is being developed right now, and we actually discussed this during the Pag-usapan Natin virtual town hall meeting on Thursday. So we hope to be able to launch this app along with the Bayanihan ID card, which is actually one of our projects. And I announced this way back in July. And we're hoping to be able to launch the consular identification card within the month.
Is it hard to get an appointment to go to the consulate for any services, whether it's getting notary club or the future Bayanihan ID? How do you try to connect to the people?
Thanks, Jen, for asking that question. And appointments have always been an issue since I came in. So as soon as I arrived, I talked to my colleagues at the consulate and told them, we're public servants. We're expected to deliver services to them. So I told them we need to work together to make sure that the consulate is responsive to the needs of our kababayan here. So you wouldn't believe, but compared to 2020, we were able to increase the number of services extended to our kababayan by almost 70%. So this came about because all my colleagues, the men and women of the consulate, really work together. They know what they're doing. But of course, we have limited resources. We cannot always accommodate the requests of kababayan, but we've tried to find ways to do it. For instance, as you mentioned, appointments. Before, people can just walk in, but after COVID, there were limitations in the number of people we could bring in, which is good. That's why we established that appointment system, and it applies not only to the Philippine Consulate General in New York, but in all our other foreign service posts. And actually, mas maganda nga to, di ba? Unlike before, you come in, you're not sure what time you're going to be accommodated. But with the appointment system, what day, what time you should be there. And in most cases naman, napakabilis nung service, and in 15 minutes, people are able to finish their transactions with us. So for passports, we launched the global online appointment system. We were supposed to launch it January 1, but we were able to do it a few days earlier. And under the GOAS, it's like applying for a visa at the U.S. Embassy, where you have the applicant himself would have to encode his data. So unlike yung previous system where you have to bring in that paper form and we have to type it in. So this eliminates several minutes from the entire process, because you come in, we just retrieve your information, and then we just ask you to check if the information is correct or not. So once this is fully operational, it would allow us to accommodate more people. Yan, may complaints ka. Bakit hindi nakakakuha kagad ng appointments? Actually, the complaints are much less compared to 2021, because other system mas nakakayanan namin, di ba? And by March, hopefully by next month, we will be able to add more. So we're only opening slots good for 1 week, and this would be 2 weeks from now. So if you don't get a slot naman, and it's an emergency case, we announced a few months ago, shortly after I arrived, I asked our colleagues to release my social media contact details, so people could just message me. They could email me. I even came up with a dedicated email where kababayan with emergency cases could email me and tell me what their requests are. So unlike before, kaya nga maraming complaints dati kasi wala silang pwedeng puntahan, di ba? Talking to,
and the phone lines are always busy or are not being answered at the time.
So yeah, may problema tayo because of limited resources. So sabi ko, buksan nyo. So dun sa email ko or sa messenger ko, I'm the one who personally respond. Diba? So we would receive requests from people who would say, "Sir, namatayan po ako, kailangan ko makauwi, wala po akong passport or expired." So what we do is say, okay, please come in tomorrow and we'll renew your passport. But to allow you to travel to the Philippines to be with your loved ones, we'll issue you a travel document and just claim the passport in the Philippines. So
this brings us to our next question. How do you find the Filipino community?
Well, napaka-supportive.
I remember one of your most recent posts where you sort of said something about people not being attentive when you go out to speak to them, people not listening, people not paying attention, and we thought that was a really we were kind of surprised that you would say that. I was surprised that you would say that, but it probably comes from an urgent place. Can you talk about that?
Okay, yung ano muna, no? When I was asked to take over as Consul General in New York, I was in Tripoli, and I was really hesitant. I actually asked if I could be retained in Tripoli or sent elsewhere, because I've been here from 2003 to 2010, and although I was with the Philippine mission to the United Nations, I was aware of what's going on in the community, and I know how divided the community is.
That seems like a loaded statement.
Sabi sa akin, di ba, parang yung impression nito, magulo yung community, maraming issues. So parang, di ba, parang ba't pa ako pupunta dyan at di ba? But to my surprise when I came in, napaka-overwhelming ng support from the community. Walang mga pasaway compared to, let's say, in Libya. I was there for 2 years. Excuse me. I was there for 2 years. I only have 2,000 Filipinos to look after. And while majority were supportive of me and the embassy, there was a small fraction, tiny fraction of the community made up of a handful of people who really made things difficult for me. We were there at the time of conflict and pandemic, and yet instead of supporting our efforts to make sure that our kababayan there are safe, they're okay, they were creating a lot of problems for me. So mayroon naman demolition job and all, di ba? But yun yung, we were able to overcome that. But here,
and the New York community is different. How?
Pagdating ko, diba, yung of course, I'm new, so you would expect leaders to come to me, introduce themselves. But siguro they're giving me the opportunity to prove myself, and I hope I did. But nakita ko yung support. So, you know, I actually do look forward to going to work every day because I know I'll be able to meet a lot of people. Ang daming projects, ang daming initiatives na napapag-usapan doon sa receiving room ko. Ang daming projects actually, di ba? So you would see yung statistics namin for last year. I think our in-person engagement went up by more than 1,000%. So ang dami namin na pag-uusapan. Like, for instance, this year we'll be launching the Matanglawin project. Okay, I was discussing it with a number of community members. So parang, sir, sabi, ano yung may tutulong namin sa Pilipinas? And you know,
What is the Matanglawin project?
We're aware, you know, that ang daming community events, ang daming fundraisers, and you know, they have resources, but they don't know where to put these resources. So I said, why don't you donate drones? Small recreational drones, di ba? Yung mga drones na may camera. So sabi ko, you know, we're a disaster-prone country, di ba? So Odette, which recently devastated parts of central and southern Philippines, is one example. You know, our first responders don't have the assets. Most of them don't. So let's say dumaan yung bagyo dyan, hindi nila ma-ascertain, excuse me, mabuti. Hindi nila ma-ascertain yung damage because they don't have the resources. So a drone would cost about $1,500. So if we could donate drones to our respective provinces, our respective cities, you know, we have many organizations here that are, you know, regional in nature, di ba? You have those from Davao, you have those from Ilocos, Pampanga, and also, kung mag-donate tayo ng isang drone or several drones and give this to our first responders, they'll be able to see the damage immediately. Pag alis na ng bagyo, makikita nila saan yung areas na baha, and they could transmit this to Manila. And Manila would be able to, you know, make the necessary preparations as part of its response. So yan yung Matanglawin project that we will be launching this year. And we've got commitments from both individuals and organizations that they would be supporting that particular project. So,
but what about this initiative to open a Bayanihan community center? That's very interesting.
Okay, yan yung when I came in, di ba? We've started bringing the community together. Yung in person started resuming after a lull of more than a year. So one of the first events we did was the LGBT event. So I was told it was the first time that we brought the LGBT community together. So I said, you know, dapat regular yan because the LGBT community has been contributing a lot din. So sayang naman yung nila kung hindi mo ma-harness. Diba? Ang dami natin creative talent yan eh. So sabi ko mukhang maliit yung Philippines, yung Kalayaan Hall. Hindi na tayo ma-accommodate dito. So that's one. And two, you know, I think you shared the observation that we're slowly losing the second and third generation of Filipinos here in the U.S. If there are no new immigrants coming in from the Philippines, baka talaga madi-disconnect yan. And you have 4 million of us here. So sabi ko, only we could unite them, bring them together. It would be a strong voice, you know, that could influence U.S. policy that would be friendly towards the Philippines. Diba? Yung policies that would benefit our people. So, for us to be able to do that, we need to strengthen the ties that bind our community here with our inang bayan. So, we cannot do that if we don't get to be together often. Diba? So, sabi ko, why don't we look at a Philippine Center Annex outside Manhattan, a big place where our kababayan could congregate. So, we're looking. I've observed also ang daming events, di ba? Yung Consul General has to attend all these Filipino community events. Daming party, daming sayawan, daming coronation.
And usually they're held in restaurants, different kinds of restaurants.
And they pay for this. So sabi ko, why don't we have something like the Filipino community centers they have in Tampa and Hawaii and other places. So, nabanggit ko sa mga ilang community members yan. And sabi ko dyan, this is the first time we heard the Congen take the lead on that because we've been trying to propose that in the past. But siguro nung panahon na yon hindi pa kamukha no ngayon, di ba? Hindi pa conducive for us to really support that. But sabi ko rin, meron mga groups here in the areas under our jurisdiction that have been pushing for that as well. So bakit instead na magkanya-kanya tayo, di ba? Why don't we pull our resources together and come up with this Bayanihan Center? And our plan is to have a place where all our events could be held, events ng community, private events, weddings, birthdays, etc. We could hold them there. And then we need a place where we could promote our culture, where our talents could perform. We need a place where, on a Friday night, we could just go there because we have Filipino bands, and then we would have inuman at pulutan, di ba? And then
Conjen,
another version.
I feel like that this Bayanihan Center is it's a dream. I've been thinking about this and I've been talking to the other
Yeah, me too.
Everyone wants it. What is the status so far? How can we help push this and make it happen, if not this year, next year?
So, tuloy ko muna yung concept, di ba? So, yung mga yan, di ba? Every Friday, may pupuntahan tayo. Pag nag-uusap ka, saan tayo ngayong Friday? Sa Bayanihan Center, tutugtog si ganito, di ba? Tapos may etc. And then, I've observed also, when I was here, the Independence Day Parade, we have organizations that really prepare for this, like the Sinulog, the Ati-Atiha, etc. Diba? Nandiyan yan. These groups really spend money, resources, time to rehearse. They have their costumes and all. Sayang naman kung once a year mo lang naman nakikita sila. Twice a year. So sabi ko nandiyan na di ba? So if the new center would have bigger grounds, then we could have these performances even on a weekly basis. Yeah. So parang, where would you be this weekend? The Sinulog dancers would perform. Diba? So we could bring even non-Filipino friends. Diba? Because cultural diplomacy efforts natin should not just be limited to, with our kababayan. Diba?
Yeah. Janice, a question.
Yeah, like how did, because there's so many organizations and they all want to be like highlighted. I don't know, we don't have enough time, but how did they ano pong reaction nila from like parang one centralized center as opposed to kanya-kanyang lugar?
The goal has always been for unity, that's what I've been pushing for. We need to be united. So I think our community leaders would understand that we cannot just do this on our own. Of course, we know that talangka mentality is there. But I'm sure they realize na kung magsama-sama tayo, we'll be able to accomplish more. So this is the direction that the consulate is heading. And I'm glad to say many organizations, many individuals have expressed their support for the initiative. Of course, some are still the wait-and-see attitude. But I think we could move forward with this.
Where are you with this initiative? Have you identified a location yet?
Not yet. So we work with some leaders of the community, and they established the Hiraya Foundation for Filipino American Heritage Foundation. So this is the counterpart that would be responsible for raising funds for the Bayanihan Center. So I've inducted the officers. It's led by Dr. Roma Rumin, Dr. Deligo, and a few others. So they're there. So they'll be responsible for generating funding. At the same time, we're organizing the Bayanihan Council. So this is made up of leaders of the various organizations that are registered with us. So these are organizations that have members, have bylaws, and in short, these are not fly-by-night organizations. These are real organizations.
Is there a timeline po? I don't know. Is there like a quick, like a year from now, 2 years from now?
This year, Hiraya will be launching several events to raise funds, and the main event will be sometime in October.
Will this center be completed during your term, Conjen?
We just want to plant the seed. So yung sabi nga natin, kaya Hiraya is there, just in case, if it depends if the new Consul General wants to support it or not. But whether they support it or not, Hiraya is there to push
We'll
forward.
continue. Okay.
Kasi meron ganun, di ba? Iba yung priorities ng mga tao.
Yeah.
But at
That's
least natanim na we planted the seed. So hopefully, yung nga sabi ko, sa October, we'll have this gala presentation at the Met to show our American host that the Philippines has arrived. So it's a major fundraiser, and we hope corporate America will support it. And then hopefully by next year, we would be able to identify the location, and if we have the funds to,
Continue.
to make payment and hopefully
Conjan,
before
tell us about your leadership style. What is your leadership style?
Yeah,
How are
Cristina,
you different from the other Conjans?
Cristina, this might be one of the last questions too, since we're running out of time.
I want to be a unifier.
That's right. They're all okay.
I want to be a
We're running
unifier.
out of time, Conjan, so please continue.
So unifier yung gusto ko. So, as the tatay, the kuya of the community, I want
That's
to work
nice.
together with the rest of us to accomplish our vision. Lahat naman tayo sinasabi ko sa aking mga conversation with community members. We all share the same aspiration. It's a better life for our people here and our people back home in the Philippines. So how can we work together to accomplish that? So yung nga, in all my speeches, in both in person or virtual, I always call for unity, yung bayanihan tulong-tulong, di ba? Bati-bati,
That's
hindi
right.
bati. Sabi ko
I'm
nga,
so
with the-
sorry, Conjan.
with the
But it looks like
coming in, sabi ko nga, hindi tayo pwedeng
Okay.
divided. We just
Yep.
one color, brown.
Okay.
So, we could be pink, we could be red, we could be green, but at the end of the day, we're all brown, and there should only be three
Okay.
colors flying.
Conjan, I'm so sorry, but it looks like we're really running out of time.
Okay.
I think we'd like to thank you for coming down and speaking directly to the community. And thank you so much and for keeping us updated on that community center. We at Makilala would love to see that project take off. On behalf of Jan and Rachelle, thank you so much. Join us again for another episode of Makilala TV. Thank you for watching.